All right, so let's talk a little bit about stroke risk factors and how they affect men and women differently. You'll see that men are the blue, so men have a greater risk factor, all the way up until it looks like around 74. But then you see women's risk factor, grows much faster than the men's risk factor. So let's take a look at what this means, and we can chat a little bit about this. Stroke is something that has affected my family, so it's something that I do care about. Um, and so let's first look at this. So when we think about why women have an average higher a higher age than men, you can certainly see that stroke is one of the reasons for that, right? Men have a higher risk of strokes in earlier years. There have been some good advancements in stroke care, but stroke care really comes down to the speed at which a person who's had a stroke gets into a medical facility, right? And so, that's one aspect of it is the identification of the event, and making sure that people are receiving um, the right care. But in this case, and I've talked about this in other venues, the one of the key things that need to happen is the preventative care of of understanding your situation with regard to blockage, right? There are other things that happen, there are other causes of strokes. I don't want to sort of say that's the only one. My grandmother died of a stroke, and it was a pretty harrowing or pretty upsetting time for my family. And she was in that 80 to 84 range. So, but with that said, I've mentioned this before, and that is, a CT scan can tell you a lot of information around whether or not you have a significant risk factor here or not, right? And so I recommend getting that done. I've had it done personally. It is generally not covered by insurance, um, from my experience, which I think is really just horrific because, it is something that could help manage um, this situation and honestly prevent a pretty catastrophic scenario, right? And once it's been identified, then it can be managed and appropriately dealt with, right? Which can extend your lifespan significantly. So, in this area, people sort of say, okay, well, what can I do about that? I would say, in your early years, making sure that you're putting money in a health savings account, and building that out. And if you're not able to do that, because your company doesn't offer one, or because it's just not the right choice for your family, then I would look at critical care insurance. Critical care insurance specifically targets stroke and heart attack, and I think it's a good way to address this. And we're going to do some more deeper dives on critical care insurance, what they cover, what the amounts are, how much it costs, all that kind of stuff. So just stay tuned for that. It's coming soon, and we'll take it from there.